I love this session on my newsletter, whatever we call this. This Kelly McGinnis is joining us, who's an executive in the C-suite in one of those Fortune 100 companies. I love having her on because she kind of gives us a bird's eye perspective of what's going on in the corporate space, but also talking to the generations that are out there. Gen Z, of course, is that generation that is the only generation that has only experienced the internet. You and I, we grew up probably with black and white. Well, I grew up with black and white TV. Um, we had to change the channels. We have to physically walk up to the TV. But Gen Z has gone through some very polarizing situations, and they really have, right? They've they've seen craziness happen in our world, and they view it through a social media lens. Do you agree with that?
I agree. Absolutely.
And are you okay with a Gen Zer on social media? Do you think that social media should be expected for them to be using inside the corporate space?
Ken, great question. And I absolutely believe it should be expected. It's their day-to-day life, and it's actually how people, whether they're within a corporation or not, communicate with each other. So we just got to figure out a way to do it to the advantage of both the company and the individual.
And what do you think about the company monitoring their social media on the things that they post?
To a certain extent, Ken, if there's something that directly goes against the company or is super controversial, I think it has to be monitored, but that doesn't mean everything they say, everything they do. I'm totally against that part. But we need to be mindful because people who work for a company represent the company.
Yeah.
Whether we want to believe that or not, they do. And so there have to be some criteria and some lines there.
So if they're polarizing, maybe not about the company, but about a certain conversation, should the company somehow get involved if they are polarizing?
If they're polarizing and it puts people in a corner and makes them feel uncomfortable and it becomes something threatening,
Mm.
I think the company has to have the ability to say something. And I'll say this, Ken, most companies have a policy that makes that not okay, and people have to sign it. And so then the question becomes, what is the different, where is the line? Because it can't be everything. And so how do we actually teach these folks that are working in these companies, where is the line? And to me, the line is there's a respect line. And
Mm.
it's very clear when you go over it. If it makes people very uncomfortable and is threatening to somebody or a group of people, that becomes a line that we actually need to engage in a discussion on.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Policy is important in a lot of businesses. So when somebody gets a job, it's so funny too, because some people say, I don't want a job. I want to work for somebody, but I don't want a job, which doesn't make any sense to me. But when they become part of that company, it's like they're on their team. So they need to support that team. What happens if that team changes the rules, being new company guidelines or policies, and the employee does not agree with that? It doesn't settle with them, right? What happens?
Well, in that case, and I've experienced this several times, there should be a dialogue, and a dialogue is okay, and a debate is okay, and asking questions why is okay. But once we get through that part, and an employee still decides to not follow the policy, we have to communicate with the employee and articulate why. And there have been a few cases in my last 20 something years where an employee overtly decided to not follow a social media policy or other policy, and we actually had to take action on the employee. But it's not surprising, it is not opaque, it is not for lack of explicit reason or conversation, but sometimes it happens.
That makes sense. This this term, and I hate using it because it's I call it the third rail. It's become incredibly political. It's three letters, DEI. Are you aware of it?
Absolutely aware. Yes.
Do you know what they stand for?
Diversity, equity, and inclusion,
And
Ken.
what does diversity, equity, and inclusion mean? What does each letter mean? Diversity means what?
To me, it's just different thoughts and opinions, experiences that folks have over the several years of their lives.
Equity?
Means same pay or same compensation for similar things.
And then inclusion.
To me, this is the big one. This one to me, Ken, is does everybody feel like they are invited to and part of a group? And whether that group is a company or any other different group, they just feel like they can be themselves in that place.
So why do you think DEI is such a third rail?
I think it's been politicized, really, and for no other reason other than it's good social media fodder and it's good newspaper print. I mean, at this point, to me, it's really not overly dramatic because at the end of the day, and I can tell you from personal experience, if you do DEI right, which is make people feel comfortable in their own space and in the company and enable people to have different points of view, that's DEI and that's foundational to many companies. And you can see that through any of the top 5, 10 companies. They're quite diverse, and that diversity actually underpins their success.
And the irony is it's been practiced for, in some cases for decades. It just has a
Absolutely.
term that has become so toxic in some cases.
Absolutely.
So when something is DEI position, it's someone's trying to go after it in a negative way. So anytime you see that, how do you diffuse that bomb?
Yeah, so for me, I answer similarly to the way I just answered you, Ken, which is let's think about what it actually is. Let's take the political stigma out of it altogether and just say it's getting people that have different experiences and different points of view and different backgrounds together in a room to solve the problem that is gonna yield the best outcome for the company. That's it.
Hmm.
And make them feel part of the team. That's it. To me, it's super simple. And when you put it that way, it diffuses the bomb, so to speak.
Okay, I'm going to throw just a curveball at you. Okay, I know you're at the C-suite, which we've identified of you being at, at the top corner office at one of those Fortune 100 companies. You're a executive. You're a woman. Have you ever been accused of being a DEI hire?
I haven't, Ken, but I'm not going to say it'll never happen. But the reason it's never happened to me so far is because I've actually had the results. They're measurable, they're sustainable. You can put them on a scorecard and they show black and white every time. And so, not suggesting it'll never happen, but it's never happened to me so far.
And I've noticed that you like Substack.
I do.
Yeah? How can people
I
find you on
do.
Substack?
Thanks, Ken, for the plug. It is leadwithkelly.substack.com. Absolutely follow me and love to have you.
Kelly McGinnis, thanks a lot for hanging out.
Thanks, Ken.